There's a specific kind of poverty that smells like rain coming through a roof you can't afford to fix, wet wood, sour cloth, and the quiet humiliation of a bucket that has a permanent place in the corner. Everett Cole lived with that smell the way other people lived with perfume. His house sat on the ragged edge of Milbrook village, where proper homes stopped and the world started pretending it couldn't see you. The door hung crooked, swollen by damp. One window was oiled cloth stretched over a frame. The roof leaned like it was tired of trying. Everett was 29 and looked older in the way hunger edits your face. He sat at his wobbling table counting copper coins that always added up to the same thing, not enough. Rent. Food. Firewood. Pick 2. Sometimes pick 1. Then footsteps came, heavy, measured, unhurried. Not the light shuffle of neighbors. Not the scuff of boys. These steps landed like the ground owed them respect. Everett's fingers found the rusty key on the fraying cord around his neck, his father's key, the one that didn't open anything anymore but still got squeezed when fear needed somewhere to go. 3 knocks. Polite. Evenly spaced. Which somehow made it worse. He stood, throat tight, and pulled the door open. 2 women stood in his weed-choked yard, identical enough to make his brain stutter. Their skin was deep midnight blue, smooth and luminous like moonlit stone. Minimal obsidian scale accents traced cheekbones and shoulders like natural jewelry. Their eyes glowed amber with subtle slit pupils, calm, watchful, predatory in the way a cat can be while still choosing not to pounce. Polished horns curved symmetrically like crown-wrought crescents, elegant rather than monstrous. Long dark waves of hair shimmered faintly metallic in the gray light. They were tall, athletic, hourglass strong, posture controlled, dangerous confidence without the need to prove it. The twin on the left spoke first, voice low and rough from travel. Human. Do you speak common? Everett managed a nod that felt like a confession. The other twin spoke, quieter but heavier. We've walked 6 days. Every inn, every door, closed. We have coin. We can pay. Her gaze flicked past him into the dim room, bucket, cloth window, poverty on display. Something like shame crossed her face anyway. We only need 1 night inside. Away from the rain. The sky behind them bruised darker, wind smelling of coming water. Everett should have said no. The village answer was always no. The survival answer was no. But he looked at their tired eyes, at the way they stood like they expected rejection as a rule, and he felt the old, familiar ache of being unseen. The roof leaks, he heard himself say. The door doesn't close right. I've got half a loaf of bread and questionable cheese. It's small, it's damp, and it smells like mildew and bad decisions. They waited, still, braced, for the refusal. Everett stepped aside and pulled the door wider. His heart pounded like it wanted to flee without him. You can sleep here, he said. If you don't mind sharing space with poverty and its many friends. The quieter twin blinked, stunned. You're serious? Terrified, Everett corrected. But yes. Nyra and Nyri entered like careful thunder. They ducked automatically, horns angled with practiced precision. Yet Everett's ceiling still seemed to resent them. The room shrank around their height, around their quiet control. Everett shut the door, mostly, then stood there as if waiting for permission to breathe in his own home. A drop fell from the rafters and smacked Nyra's shoulder with a pathetic plink. Both twins looked up at the leak, then at Everett. Nyri's mouth twitched. It greets strangers. It's friendly, Everett said weakly. Only to people who don't deserve it. Nyra's glowing eyes scanned the space, bucket in the corner, warped boards, the curtain that pretended to be privacy. Her gaze didn't sneer. It measured, like a mason studying a cracked wall. You live alone. Mostly, Everett said. Sometimes the wind visits. Nyri lowered herself to sit on the floor with smooth, deliberate grace. Nyra mirrored her across the room, as if symmetry was a habit they could never quite stop. Their hair spilled dark and metallic across their shoulders. The obsidian scale accents caught the dim light like embedded stars. Everett went to his table and cut the bread into 3 pieces, hands steady only because shaking would waste time. He gave them the larger portions without thinking. When Nyra noticed, her gaze sharpened. "You will eat," she said. "I am," Everett lied, holding up his smaller piece like proof. Nyra accepted her share with both hands, palms open, an old gesture of not hiding a weapon. "Thank you," she said, the words chosen carefully, like stepping over a crack in ice. They ate in silence at first, rain beginning to patter harder. The roof answered with its 4 different drips, fast, slow, and 2 that tried to harmonize. Everett tried not to watch the twins eat like hungry travelers who'd learned to deny hunger. But when Nyri's shoulders eased after the first mouthful, his chest tightened anyway. Nyra broke the silence. "Why does the village turn you away?" Everett barked a laugh that had no humor in it. "They don't turn me away. I'm already away. They just keep walking like I'm not there." Nyri's amber eyes softened. "We know that walk." Nyra's jaw flexed. "We are not welcome here either." "You knocked," Everett said. "That's more courtesy than I get from the people who share my well." Nyri glanced to his chest where the frayed cord hung. "That key. It matters to you." Everett's fingers touched it reflexively. "It belonged to my father. He said it opened something important once." He shrugged. "Now it opens nothing." Nyra studied him a long moment, then looked at the crooked door, the leak, the thinness of his blanket. "You have nothing," she said, flat, not cruel. "Yet you offered shelter." Everett swallowed. "Maybe I'm tired of being the kind of person who says no because I'm scared." Nyri's gaze flicked to the window cloth, where lightning briefly turned the room silver blue. "Then tonight, we will not let fear take more from you." Nyra shifted, and Everett noticed a strap on her pack, torn, hastily tied. "Where are you going?" he asked. Twin glances. A whole conversation in a breath. "East," Nyri said. "Away from the people who claim us." Nyra added, quieter, "Away from what we were made for." The rain thickened into a steady roar. And Everett, listening, realized the village road outside had gone silent, too silent. As if someone had stopped to watch his house in the storm. Morning arrived gray and damp, the kind of dawn that felt like an apology nobody meant. Everett woke to the sound of whispering, soft, urgent, close. He pushed the curtain aside. Nyra and Nyri were already dressed, packs on, hair braided tighter for travel. They stood near the door, horns nearly grazing the ceiling. Their eyes snapped to him like drawn blades. "We should leave," Nyra said. "Before the village wakes." Nyri nodded. "If they see us here, they'll punish you for it." Everett rubbed his face, feeling the grit of dried worry. "They punish me anyway. It's practically tradition." Nyra's gaze dropped to the bucket. A drip landed right on cue. Her nostrils flared. "Your roof is failing." "It's been failing for years," Everett said. "It's committed." Nyri hesitated, then reached into her pack and produced a small wrapped bundle. "Travel bread," she said. "Real. Keep it." Everett took it because refusing would make the kindness heavier, not lighter. "Thank you." Nyra opened the door a careful inch, scanning the road. The village was still sleeping, smoke not yet rising, shutters still closed. She stepped out, then Nyri. Everett followed to the threshold, barefoot on cold boards. They turned to him. Nyri's face, so calm, so predatory calm, held something raw underneath. "We won't forget this." Nyra added, blunt as a hammer, you are either brave or foolish. Foolish, Everett said. But I'm working on it. A pause. Wind tugged at their hair. Everett's hand went to the key without thinking. He pulled the cord over his head. The metal was rusted, edges worn smooth by nervous fingers. My father said this opened something important, he said. I thought it was a door. He held it out. Last night I remembered, maybe it was never a door. Maybe it was a choice. Nyra stared at the key like it might bite. We cannot take your inheritance. You can, Everett insisted, voice shaking. You're walking away from what the world expects you to be. That's harder than anything I've done. Take it and, remember someone saw you as more than a rumor. Nyra's eyes shone brighter, too bright. She nudged her sister with a shoulder that tried to pretend it wasn't gentle. Nyra accepted the key in her large hand with surprising care, closing her fingers around it as if cradling a fragile ember. Kindness makes family, she said softly, as if reciting something she'd once rejected. Nyra echoed, choice makes home. Then they were gone, two midnight blue figures slipping into the wet morning, moving with the quiet confidence of people who knew how to disappear. Everett stood in his doorway until the road swallowed them. He turned back to his house, still crooked, still leaking, still poor, but his chest felt lighter. 3 days later, Howell Critch knocked with the enthusiasm of a man paid to enjoy misery. Everett opened the door to find Howell in his neat coat, ledger tucked under one arm like a holy book. Everett Cole, Howell said brightly. Rent. Plus last month. Plus interest. Everett looked at his coins. Not enough, in any language. I don't have it. Howell smiled. Then Lord Peton will reclaim what he owns. His eyes flicked to Everett's bare chest. Where's your little key? Everett's stomach dropped. I gave it away. Howell's pen scratched his ledger like a knife on bone. Fascinating. Lord Peton will find that very interesting. As Howell left, Everett heard footsteps again outside, many footsteps this time, stopping, lingering, as if the village itself had begun to gather. By midday, the rumors had grown teeth. Everett went to the well and felt eyes on him like cold rain. Conversations paused as he approached. A woman with flour on her hands turned her shoulder as if he carried sickness. Two boys whispered horns and devils and made a sign against bad luck. He filled his bucket anyway, hands steady through habit. Poverty taught you to keep moving even when shame tried to glue your feet down. On the walk back, Beatrice Wren, elderly, sharp as a tack and twice as unforgiving, stepped into his path like a gate. Her rosary clicked fast in her fingers. Everett Cole, she hissed. Is it true you housed them? Everett tightened his grip on the bucket handle. If you mean two travelers who knocked politely and asked for one night out of the rain, yes. Beatrice's eyes flashed. Travelers? Those were horned predators. You invite that into our village, and you'll bring wrath down on all of us. Our village? Everett said, surprised by his own heat. This village forgets my name until it wants my rent. Beatrice's mouth pinched. Lord Peton will hear of this. He already has, Everett muttered, stepping around her. Back home, he ate a piece of the travel bread Nyri had left, soft, real, almost sweet. The taste made something in him ache. He wrapped the rest carefully and hid it like treasure. That evening, a stone hit his window cloth and bounced off with a dull thunk. Then another. Everett flinched, heart racing. He stepped outside to see 3 teenagers at the road edge, grinning too hard. One held another stone like it was a joke. Careful, Everett called, forcing steadiness. That cloth's all I have. One boy spat. Should have asked your horned girlfriends to buy you glass. They laughed and ran before Everett could answer. He stood in the drizzle, fists clenched, trying to swallow anger that felt too big for his thin body. Inside, he paced. He could endure hunger. He could endure leaking roofs. But the idea that he'd finally done one kind thing in years, and the village would punish him for it, made something ugly rise in his throat. Then, near midnight, the heavy footsteps came again. Everett froze, hand to his chest out of habit, then remembered the key was gone. He moved to the door, breath loud in his ears. A knock. 3 taps. Polite. Evenly spaced. He yanked the door open. And there they were, Nyra and Nyri, soaked with road rain, eyes glowing brighter than the stormlight, and behind them, a covered cart pulled by a shaggy mule. Nyri lifted the cart cloth just enough for Everett to see stacks of boards, coils of rope, and a bundle of shingles. Nyra's mouth curved in a small, dangerous smile. "We tried to leave," she said. "We failed." Nyri added, almost apologetic, "because your roof kept appearing in our thoughts." Everett stared. "You came back, for my roof." Nyra stepped closer, rain dripping from her hair like ink. "For your roof," she agreed. "And for your lesson." Everett swallowed hard. "What lesson?" Nyri's glowing eyes flicked to the darkness where the village road lay. "That kindness has consequences," she said. "And we're done letting you face them alone." Behind them, the mule snorted, and the cart creaked, heavy with the kind of materials Everett could never afford. Nyra leaned in, voice low as thunder. "Let us in," she said, "and tell us who owns your fear." Everett should have said no. The smart part of him, small, bruised, practiced, screamed that this would make everything worse. But the louder part, the part that had opened the door the first time, stepped aside. They brought the cart around back where the trees shielded it from casual eyes. Nyra moved like she'd done this 100 times, unhook, steady the mule, check the road, listen. Nyri handled the supplies with the quiet competence of someone who didn't drop things, didn't waste motion, didn't waste hope. Inside, Everett poured water into 3 mismatched cups. His hands shook. "If anyone sees." "They already see," Nyra cut in. "They threw stones at you." Everett's throat tightened. "How?" Nyri tapped the side of her head lightly. "We hear the world. It keeps secrets poorly." Nyra's amber eyes pinned him. "Who is Lord Peton?" Everett gave a humorless laugh. "The man who owns most of Milbrook. Including, technically, this house. I rent it. I'm behind. His collector is Howell Critch." Nyri's expression sharpened at the name Howell, like she'd filed it into a list. "And if you don't pay?" "He'll take the house," Everett said. "Or take me. Debtor service. Fields. Forever." Silence hit the room, heavier than rain. Nyra stood and looked up at the ceiling where the most enthusiastic leak performed. "This roof will not survive another season." Everett gestured helplessly. "Neither will I." Nyri's gaze warmed, not soft, exactly, but intent. "Then we changed the season." They waited until pre-dawn to start. Not because they feared work, but because they understood villages, the worst judgment came with daylight. Nyra climbed the roof like it was a memory. She moved with calm strength, horns never catching, feet finding purchase on slick thatch. Nyri stayed below, passing shingles, rope, and nails, her posture steady even while working in cramped space. Everett helped where he could, holding boards, fetching tools, taking instruction like a starving man takes bread. "Don't nail there," Nyri corrected gently, guiding his hand. "The wood is rotten. It will split." Everett flushed. "Sorry." Nyra's voice came from above, dry as gravel. "Apologize to the roof when you fix it." Everett surprised himself by laughing, breath puffing white in the cold. "Sorry, roof." The roof did not forgive him immediately, but it stopped dripping in one corner. A small miracle. By sunrise, the worst leak was patched. Everett looked up and felt something strange. Relief that didn't immediately turn into dread. It was unfamiliar enough to make him suspicious. Then the first villager appeared, old Jansen, walking his goat. He stopped dead when he saw Nyra on Everett's roof, horns silhouetted against the gray sky like a crown of threats. Jansen's mouth opened. His goat bleated. Nyra looked down slowly, hammer in hand, rainwater on her midnight blue skin catching the light. She didn't grin. She didn't snarl. She simply said, "Morning." Jansen's eyes bulged. He backed away like the air had teeth, dragging the confused goat. Everett's stomach sank. That's it. Now everyone will know. Nyri placed a hand on Everett's shoulder, warm, steady, heavy with promise. "Let them know," she murmured. "We are not hiding for people who throw stones." A shout rose from down the road. Another voice answered it. Everett heard his name, heard horns, heard devils, heard Peton. Nyra hopped down from the roof in one clean motion and landed beside Everett with a thud that made the boards complain. She handed him the hammer. "Hold this," she said. Everett stared at it. "Why?" Nyra's eyes glowed like molten amber. "Because," she said softly, "someone is coming, and they'll expect you to be the man who bows." From the village center, a small procession approached, Howl Critch in front, Ledger tucked tight, and behind him 2 guards with clubs. Everett's fingers tightened around the hammer. Nyri leaned close and whispered, "Are you ready to be seen?" The first twin's eyes narrowed, studying him like he was the strange creature. "Why?" Everett's fingers tightened around the useless key. "Because 6 days is a long time. And I know what it's like when people pretend they don't see you." Something shifted between them, subtle, real. The left twin touched her chest. Nyra. The right mirrored her. Nyri. Outside, the first raindrops began to tap the roof like impatient fingers. And Everett realized he'd just invited a storm into his house on purpose. Howl arrived with the smug confidence of a man who'd never been hit for running his mouth. The guards flanked him, boots clean, clubs casual. He stopped at Everett's yard and looked up at the roof, now partially repaired, like it had personally offended him. "Well," Howl said, voice oily with satisfaction, "this is dramatic." Nyra stepped forward before Everett could. She was still dusted with thatch bits, hammer loops at her belt, hair tied back, horns gleaming wet. She didn't loom. She simply existed in a way that made looming unnecessary. "State your business." Howl blinked, just once, then recovered with the speed of a practiced bully. "My business is with Everett Cole. Rent. Arrears. Interest." He pointed his pen at Everett. "And also, harboring." Nyri crossed her arms, obsidian scales catching light at her cheekbones. "He harbored travelers who knocked." "How noble," Howl sneered. "And how illegal, when those travelers are," his eyes flicked to their horns. "Exactly the kind of trouble Lord Peton dislikes." Everett stepped forward, hammer still in hand, heart banging his ribs. "I owe you money, Howl. Not my soul." Howl's smile thinned. "Lord Peton will decide what you owe. By week's end, you will pay 47 gold." Everett's vision blurred. 47. That's. "Interest is a living creature," Howl said brightly. "It grows." Nyra's gaze went very still. "You inflate debt to harvest bodies." One guard snorted. "Careful, hornhead." Nyri's head tilted, eyes narrowing. The guard's hand tightened on his club without him realizing. Everett felt the moment teeter, one shove away from violence. He lifted his free hand quickly. "No," he said to everyone, voice sharp. "Not here." Nyra looked at him, and something in her expression changed. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. Howell tapped his ledger. Week's end, Everett Cole. If you can't pay, the property is reclaimed and you enter service. That's the law. Your law, Everett muttered. Howell's eyes flicked to the stacks of supplies. And I'll also note the theft of materials. Those boards aren't yours. Nyri's voice was quiet, dangerous. We bought them. How convenient, Howell said. Bring receipts to Lord Peton. If he's amused, he'll let you keep your roof while you work his fields. He turned to leave, then paused, glancing back at Nyra and Nyri with a smile that tried to be brave. Also, the village council meets tonight. They'll want you removed. After he walked away, the guards trailing, Everett stood in the yard with rain on his face and shame in his stomach. I ruined your journey, he said hoarsely. You should have kept walking east. Nyri's hand closed around his wrist, firm, grounding. We did walk east, she said. And every mile, we kept thinking of your door opening. Nyra looked up at the roof again. We are not leaving a man to drown because others enjoy watching. Everett swallowed. I can't pay 47 gold. Nyra turned, amber eyes bright. Then we don't pay with gold. Nyri nodded toward the village edge, other poor homes like Everett's, roofs slumped, doors broken, patched windows like bruises. We pay with proof, she said. Let them see what we do. Everett frowned. What are you talking about? Nyra's smile returned, small, sharp, purposeful. Today we fix your roof in daylight. That'll make them angrier. Nyri's eyes held his. Good, she said. Anger means they're looking. And if they're looking, they'll have to see the truth. By afternoon, Nyra was back on the roof, hammer ringing out like a bell. Nyri repaired Everett's door so it closed flush for the first time in years. Everett hauled boards, learned knots, learned how to hold a nail without bleeding. And neighbors began to gather at a distance, not close enough to be kind, but close enough to be curious. A child edged nearer, staring at Nyri's horns with wide eyes. Are you monsters? He whispered. Nyri crouched so her glowing gaze met his without looming. Do monsters fix doors? She asked softly. The child looked at the door, then back at her. My mom's roof leaks. Nyra's hammer paused overhead. Everett felt his pulse spike. Don't, he whispered. If you start helping everyone, Peton will. Nyra looked down from the roof, rainwater sliding off her midnight blue skin. Then let him come, she said. And from the road, the distant clatter of hooves answered. Fast, expensive, approaching. The horse arrived first, glossy and impatient, its tack polished like a threat. Lord Peton sat above it as if the world had been made to hold him up, fur-trimmed cloak, clean gloves, a face that practiced contempt the way some men practice prayer. Howell Critch rode behind on a smaller mount, ledger hugged tight. The gathered villagers parted automatically, like fear was a rope pulling them aside. Everett stood in his yard with sawdust on his hands and panic in his chest. Nyri stepped beside him, close enough that her presence steadied his breathing. Nyra climbed down from the roof and landed with a thump, hammer still in hand. Lord Peton didn't look at the twins at first. He looked at Everett like Everett was a stain. Mr. Cole, he said, voice smooth. I hear you've invited disturbance. They fixed my roof, Everett said, and hated how small his voice sounded. Peton's gaze flicked up at the new shingles as if they were an insult. You are behind on rent. Deeply behind. And now you host horned wanderers who incite unrest. He smiled without warmth. I've decided to end my patience. Nyra spoke before Everett could. Name your price. Peton finally looked at her. His eyes narrowed, not with fear, but with the irritation of a man being addressed by something he considered beneath him. My price? The law. He gestured with one gloved hand. 47 gold by week's end. Or your house and your labor. Nyri's voice stayed calm. You engineer debt to steal bodies. Howl made a delighted noise, as if writing that sentence down would taste sweet later. Peton leaned forward in the saddle. And as for you two, leave. Or I call the guard from Brackford. They enjoy removing problems. The villagers murmured, a nervous, hungry sound, some eager for punishment, some terrified of what punishment would do to all of them. Everett's mind raced, this is my fault. This is my fault. He could almost feel the fields already, mud under nails, sun on the back of his neck, years evaporating. Then a voice from the crowd, a woman, thin and tired. My roof leaks too, she called suddenly, as if the words escaped before caution could strangle them. She held a small boy's hand. We can't pay anyone to fix it. A second voice, older. My door doesn't latch. Wind comes in at night. A third, rough. My floor's rotting. The crowd shifted, embarrassed at their own honesty. Peton's smile tightened. Howell's pen froze mid-scratch. Nyra looked at the villagers, then at Everett. See, she murmured. They drown quietly because they're trained to. Nyri stepped forward one pace. We will fix their roofs, she said, clear and loud enough to carry. Their doors. Their floors. For those who cannot afford safety. Peton laughed once. Charity. How quaint. And how disruptive. People who don't pay are people who don't learn. Everett's hands clenched. He surprised himself by stepping forward too. People who don't pay are people who don't have, he said, voice stronger. And you know that. Peton's eyes hardened. Careful. Nyra lifted her hammer slightly, not threatening, but visible. We are builders, she said. You can call guards. You can call councils. But you cannot stop work once it begins. Peton's horse shifted uneasily, sensing tension like lightning. Howl cleared his throat. My lord, perhaps we. Peton cut him off with a sharp look, then addressed Everett again. Tonight, the council will meet. They will decide what to do with your guests. His gaze slid over Nyra and Nyri's horns. And with you. He wheeled his horse, cloak snapping, and rode away as if the decision was already written. When he was gone, the villagers didn't immediately scatter. They hovered, uncertain, caught between prejudice and need. The tired mother stepped closer, eyes on Nyri. If you fixed our roof, she whispered, would you take payment in bread? Nyri's expression softened in a way that didn't weaken her at all. Yes, she said. And in witnessing. Everett turned to Nyra, heart pounding. The council will throw you out. Nyra's smile flashed, quick as a blade. Then we attend the council, she said. Nyri nodded. And we bring hammers. As evening crept in, Everett realized he was about to walk into the village hall beside two horn-crowned twins, and challenge the men who owned his life. And he didn't know whether he was walking toward freedom or a cage. The village hall smelled like smoke, sweat, and old arguments. Candles guttered in wall sconces, throwing nervous shadows across faces Everett had spent years avoiding. The council sat at a long table, 3 elders, a miller, and the priest who pretended he wasn't political. Lord Peton stood behind them like a second table made of arrogance. Howl Critch hovered near his elbow, ledger ready to bite. Everett walked in with Nyra and Nyri flanking him. The room went quiet in the way forests go quiet when a predator passes, not because the predator intends harm, but because everyone remembers their own fragility. Nyra kept her hands empty, palms visible. Nyri did the same. Their horns caught candlelight like polished crescents. Their amber eyes glowed steadily, not aggressive, simply unafraid. Elder Marwyn cleared his throat. Everett Cole. You are accused of harboring dangerous outsiders. Everett's mouth went dry. Nyri murmured, barely audible, breathe. He did. Did they threaten you? The priest asked quickly, as if hoping for an easy answer. Everett looked at the faces, some hungry for scandal, some afraid of change, some just tired. No, he said. They asked for one night out of the rain. They knocked. They paid in work. They fixed my roof. A ripple of whispers. Lord Peton stepped forward. Work performed by unauthorized creatures is still unlawful. They spread unrest. Already my tenants talk of repairs, as if they're entitled to them. Nyra's eyes narrowed. Entitled to not drowning? How dare you address, the miller started. Nyri's voice cut through, calm and sharp. We will speak, because we are spoken about. Elder Marwyn frowned. And what are you? Nyra lifted her chin. Travelers. Builders. Twins. A beat. Not your monsters. Howell's pen scratched. Peton smiled thinly. Pretty words. But this village cannot risk its safety. From the back, the tired mother, Mara, Everett remembered suddenly, stood with her boy beside her. Her hands shook, but she didn't sit. Safety, she said. My roof leaks on my baby's bed. Is that safety? A man near her stood too. My door doesn't latch. Wolves got my chickens last week. Another voice, my floor's rotting. The hall stirred like a pot finally boiling over. Peton's smile faltered, he hadn't expected the poor to speak in a room meant to keep them quiet. Nyra took one step forward. We can fix it, she said. Not with charity that humiliates. With work. With teaching. Let us repair the edge homes. Let Everett help. Let us trade labor for food, for coin when coin exists. Elder Marwyn's brow furrowed. And in return, you demand. Nyri's glow steadied, like a lantern refusing wind. Nothing but permission to exist without stones. Peton laughed sharply. Permission? You are not citizens. You are. Everett cut in, surprising himself with the firmness. They're my guests. And I'm tired of begging permission to be kind. Silence snapped tight. Peton leaned close, voice low enough to feel like a private threat. You forget who owns your house, Cole. Everett's heart hammered. Nyri's hand brushed his elbow, grounding him. Then Nyra spoke softly, deadly calm. He doesn't forget, she said. He's just done obeying. Elder Marwyn raised both hands. Enough. The council will decide. He looked at Peton, then at the villagers standing, then at Everett. Until then, no violence. No stones. No retaliation. Peton's gaze slid to Howell, then to Everett, then to the twins. The look promised consequences later. The meeting dissolved into murmurs and shifting bodies. Everett felt sick with adrenaline as people streamed out, some glaring, some curious, some quietly hopeful. Outside, Nyri exhaled. They didn't banish us. They didn't protect us either, Nyra said, eyes on the dark road. Everett hugged himself against the cold. What now? Nyra's smile returned, small, sharp, determined. Now we work faster. Nyri added, before Peton decides to stop us the easy way. From down the road, a distant shout rose, angry, drunk, and growing closer. The shout became a mob in the space between heartbeats. Everett saw them first as torches, 3, then 5, bobbing like angry fireflies. Then faces emerged, men from the tavern, boys trying to be men, a couple of women whose fear had curdled into cruelty. Someone had a pitchfork. Someone had a club. Someone had enough courage to be dangerous because they weren't alone. Devils, a voice screamed. Out of Milbrook. Everett's legs went cold. He backed instinctively toward his house, then stopped, realizing that retreat would place his door behind him, like a trap. Nyra stepped forward, posture controlled, shoulders squared. Nyri stayed half a pace back, eyes scanning, listening to footfalls, counting breath. Their calm made the torchlight look frantic. A stone flew. It hit the repaired doorframe with a crack. Everett flinched. Nyri's voice carried, steady. Stop. The mob hesitated. Not because they were noble, but because her tone sounded like consequences. A man shoved forward. You bewitched the council. You'll bring war down on us. Nyra lifted her hands, empty, palms out. We brought hammers, she said. Not war. Liar. Another stone. Everett's chest tightened until he could barely breathe. He heard his father's voice in his head, kindness isn't weakness, boy. It's risk. He stepped forward, before he could change his mind. They fixed my roof, Everett shouted. His voice cracked, but it was loud. They haven't hurt anyone. They asked to pay. They worked. And you, he gestured at the mob, at the torches, at the pitchfork, you want to punish that because it makes you uncomfortable to see someone you were told to hate doing something better than you. A torchbearer spat. He's under them. Nyra's eyes narrowed, and for the first time Everett saw the predator calm shift closer to predator. Not rage, control so tight it could cut. Nyri murmured, almost to herself, if they rush, I take the left. Nyra answered quietly, I take the right. Everett's stomach flipped. No, he whispered. Please. Don't. Nyra glanced at him, quick, sharp, and something softened. She looked back to the mob. You want to hurt someone, she called. Hurt me. Not him. He's done nothing but open a door. A man lunged forward, club raised. And the moment broke, not into violence, but into interruption. A shout from the side, enough. Mara. The tired mother, ran into the torchlight with two other women behind her, each holding something heavy, a pot, a rolling pin, a thick piece of firewood. Not weapons, exactly. Tools that became weapons when survival demanded it. My son sleeps under a leaking roof, Mara yelled. These twins offered to fix it. You'll have to go through me. Old Jansen appeared too, dragging his goat like a witness. They said good morning, he offered, confused, as if that should matter. Polite devils, if they are devils. Laughter flickered, nervous, disbelieving, through the crowd. The mob's confidence wavered, split by the sight of neighbors choosing sides. Howell Critch's voice cut in suddenly from behind the mob, sharp as a pen. This is unlawful assembly. Lord Peton will. Nyri's gaze snapped to him. You, she said, and the single word landed like a stone in a pond. Howell faltered. He hadn't expected to be seen. Nyra stepped closer to the mob, voice low, dangerous in its restraint. Go home, she said. Before someone gets hurt by accident, or by choice. A long, tense pause. Torch flames hissed in the damp air. Then one man lowered his club. Another muttered and stepped back. Fear doesn't always lose to courage, sometimes it just gets tired. The crowd began to disperse, grumbling, throwing last looks like curses. Everett's knees nearly gave out from relief. Nyri exhaled slowly. They'll come again. Nyra's eyes stayed on Howell as he retreated, ledger clutched tight. And next time, she said softly, Peton won't send drunks. Everett's voice came out small. What will he send? Nyra's smile was all teeth without showing them. Paper, she said. law. And men who call cruelty order. From the village center, a bell rang, one slow toll, then another, summoning something official into motion. The next morning, paper arrived. A notice was nailed to Everett's repaired door. Clean parchment, crisp ink, an official seal pressed hard enough to bruise the wood. Howell Critch stood in the yard with 2 guards again, smiling like he'd invented authority. Eviction, the notice said. Not at week's end. Not after mercy. Immediate. For harboring unlawful outsiders, and inciting civil unrest. Everett read it twice, because his eyes refused to accept the shape of the words. His stomach dropped into the floorboards. He can't, he whispered. The council said. How quaint, Howell said. Councils advise. Lord Petton owns. He gestured grandly, pen poised. You will vacate by sundown. Nyra stepped beside Everett, close enough that her midnight blue shoulder brushed his. Nyri stood on his other side, symmetrical as a vow. Their eyes glowed steadily, not flaring. Calm. Everett's hands shook. I can't leave. Where would I? Nyri's voice was soft, certain. You won't. Howell's smile widened. Oh. And who will stop it? 2 horned vagabonds. Nyra looked at him the way you look at a rotten board you're about to pull out. No, she said. The village edge. Howell scoffed. The poor. They can't stop a seal. A voice behind him answered, Mara's. We can stop a door being taken, she said. Howell turned sharply. Mara stood at the road with her boy and 3 other neighbors. Then more appeared, the man with the broken latch, the woman with the rotting floor, old Jansen with his goat, even Beatrice Wren. Rosary in hand, lips pinched like she was furious at herself for being here. Beatrice lifted her chin. I don't approve, she snapped at Everett. But Petton's men tried to raise my rent last winter too. And I hate him more than I fear, horns. Howell's face tightened. This is sedition. Nyri stepped forward, speaking loud enough for all to hear. We repaired roofs. We repaired doors. We can repair a village spine too. The guards shifted uneasily. They'd come for one poor man. They'd found a crowd. Everett's throat burned. Why are you doing this? He asked the neighbors, voice breaking. You don't owe me. Mara's boy piped up, fearless now. They fixed our roof. So we fix yours. Something in Everett cracked, not pain, not exactly, more like a locked thing opening. Nyra turned to him. Your father's key, she murmured. From inside her tunic she drew the rusty key on its frayed cord. It doesn't open doors, she said, pressing it into Everett's palm. It opens choices. Today is yours. Everett looked at Howell. Looked at the seal. Looked at the neighbors in patched coats and tired eyes who had still shown up. He stepped forward and placed the key against the eviction notice like it could unlock ink. No, he said, voice steady now. You don't get to take what you didn't build. Howell's smile finally slipped. I'll report this. Petton will send. Nyra's eyes glowed brighter, not with anger but with certainty. Send whoever you like, she said. We will be here. Building. Nyra added, and teaching. Howell backed away, guards following, less triumphant now, more calculating. When they were gone, the yard felt strangely quiet. Everett realized he was still holding the key. His father's key, warm from Nyra's hand. Nyra looked at the gathered neighbors. We'll add a room, she said, nodding to Everett's house. For supplies. For lessons. Nyra's smile was small but real. And for anyone who needs shelter when the rain comes. Everett let out a breath he felt like he'd been holding for years. You're staying, he said, half question. Nyra glanced at her sister, twin language in a blink, then back at him. If you'll have us. Everett's answer surprised him again, but it felt less like foolishness and more like a door finally opening. Yeah, he said. I will. Behind them, clouds gathered, dark, heavy with more rain. But for the first time, Everett didn't look at the sky like it was an enemy. He looked at it like a test. And in the distance, beyond Milbrook's fields, a rider crested the hill, fast, official, carrying a banner Everett had never seen before, heading straight toward the village as if bringing news that could break everything they just built.